discovering the only purpose of life is to be independently joyous, Vivekji continues to explore this purpose by sharing the same with others. Vivekji is a resident teacher of Chinmaya Mission Niagara and also teaches at Chinmaya Cleveland and Albany. Additionally, Vivekji is the Deputy Director of Chinmaya Yuva Kendra West, a wing of the organization dedicated to empowering youth and young adults. In addition to being a dedicated teacher, Vivekji is a published author. His works include Reflection Adventure of the Week Workbook, or the Raw Workbook, and the Seeker's Workbook. With a speaking style of insight and inspiration, Vivekji makes philosophy relevant and reachable to people across cultures and generations. He uniquely weaves the sacred into the secular, revealing that a life of independent joy is possible. Now, before Vivekji begins, please ensure that your camera is on. This creates a wonderful sense of community. And additionally, when you have questions for Vivekji, please put them in the chat and Vivekji will answer them from there. So Hari Om, everyone, and now I turn it over to Vivekji.
Good morning, everyone gather around. Throughout this retreat, we've been having recorded messages and webinars where we can't feel this community as closely. So I am also encouraging all of you to turn your cameras on and come closer to the camera so I can see your smile. Lovely. Oh. 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 Narayana. Hari Om, and greetings from Niagara Falls, Canada. You've gotten to experience teachers from all over the world, connecting from Bharat, connecting from America, and now Canada. I offer my reverence to Puja Guruji, Swami Tejo Mahananda, and Puja Swamiji, Swami Srupananda. Why? Because they're holding our hands on this journey to peace. If you can recall the last time someone held your hand in a positive way, not in a negative way, what a feeling that is. And we are being offered the same. I offer my reverence to the organizers. Everything that is going on in this camp has been perfect so far. I've been part of many camps, and this one, I was sharing with the organizers, there's no need for a meeting. Everything is going well. The first Mahasamadhi camp, Chinmaya Mahasamadhi camp that I was part of after completing the Vedanta course was in 2008. This was organized by CM Washington at Rocky Gap. That was 13 years ago. And I feel every year, my relationship with Swami Dhirananda, with Vilasanaji, all of the Vedanta teachers, all of the organizers becomes closer. And my reverence to all of you. I wanted your cameras on so I can see you, so we can feel each other. Our world is moving fast. One of the definitions of Kali is speed or fast. And seeking in a fast environment is difficult. And now our environment is virtual. It's like matters move even faster. Yet all of you are being steady, are being sincere. So I offer my reverence to all of you. If I asked all of you to reflect on Sanatana Dharma, which is popularly known as Hinduism, one association you must make is Sanatana Dharma is always facilitated by a samvada. Samvada, which in English means a dialogue. Our Shruti, like the Upanishads, is a dialogue between a rishi and a shishya. Yes? Our Smriti, like Bhagavad Gita, is a dialogue between the intellect, that is Sri Krishna, and the mind, that is Prince Arjuna. Our Puranas, like Bhagavatam, there are so many dialogues in Bhagavatam, one can't keep track of them. There's a dialogue inside of a dialogue inside of a dialogue. In my reflections on what Puja Guruji and Puja Swamiji have been sharing, these are my reflections. I could be very wrong. Puja Swamiji is sharing the vision of one who is peaceful. He is utilizing chapter 3, but in Bhagavad Gita, the best way to know one who is peaceful actually is in chapter 2, which is popularly known as the Sthita Prajna Lakshanas. So this vision is being shared. Chapter 2 is a table of contents. All that is shared in Bhagavad Gita is really contained in chapter 2 and then elaborated upon. It is forward-looking. Puja Guruji is sharing what the lifestyle of a person should be who wants to have this vision, who wants to feel peace. So Puja Swamiji, vision. Puja Guruji, lifestyle. Puja Swamiji, chapter 2, table of contents. Puja Guruji, chapter 18, which is a summary. All that was shared in chapter 2 and elaborated upon is summarized in chapter 18. It is almost backwards looking. What I have been invited to do is facilitate a samvada, a dialogue, which is really to try to encourage the dots to be connected. If we have lots of dots on a page, we can't see that picture. When lines are put between the dots, we come to see that picture. So this is what I'm going to try to do. And I was asking our organizers, how many people attended Puja Swamiji's discourse? How many people attended Puja Guruji's? And I'm at a little bit more than half, which is awesome. I expected 10 of you to be here. And that to the organizers out of respect. So this is what I'm going to aspire to do, because where there is clarity, there is confidence. Without clarity, there can be no confidence. I will share some lines for 20-ish minutes, and for the remaining half an hour, any questions you have about chapter 18, chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita, etc., I will try to answer them. I'm going to refer to our itihasa. Itihasa means history. Why I'm fond of referencing history, because in our history, in our culture's history, there is always a possibility. Someone like Sri Rama, who has lost so much, but Ramayana gives us the possibility of reuniting with what is lost. In the Mahabharata, we always see images of Prince Arjuna fallen, but really it's about possibility where he rises again. So I'm going to refer to Ramayana. And as I share these thoughts, I know you have heard this before, you've seen this before, but try to personalize this. Visualize this dialogue is happening within you. Visualize Devi Sita. Devi Sita in Sanskrit is an icon for Shanti. In English, that means peace. Okay, everyone can see Devi Sita. In this particular context, she's in Lanka, in a Shokavatika, looking at her feet, saying Ram, Ram. Now I want you to visualize Sri Hanumana. And if you're having difficulties, he's right behind me. Can you all see Sri Hanumana? I purposefully am teaching here. This is our transition between the kitchen and the living room. The last time that we were all together in 2008, since then I got married and I have 2 kids. These are my kids' toys, okay? It's not I have a fascination with balloons and a crane now. Visualize Sri Hanumana. He is an icon for a sadhaka. A sadhaka or a personality, that is us, okay? We are in Bharat. We're trying to see Devi Sita. Now Jambavan, who is an incarnation of Bhagwan Brahma. Don't get lost in those details if this is new to you. Focus on what this means to you. Bhagwan Brahma as Jambavan, who's one of the best teachers, just tells Sri Hanumana, the purpose of your life is to serve Sri Rama. In this particular context, your purpose is Devi Sita. Now, personalizing this to all of us, when you woke up this morning, isn't this our reality? We are a personality. Our purpose is to be with peace, to be peaceful. So now we have to journey along to reach Devi Sita. This is our lifestyle. What you did this morning, what you're going to eat, whom you're going to interact with. When Hanumanji starts from Bharat to Lanka, the first challenge he encounters is Mainaka. Mainaka is a mountain that comes from the ocean and shares with Hanumanji, you should rest. And what does Hanumanji do? He touches Mainaka and continues. Fine, we all know that. Now, internalizing this. Mainaka symbolizes kama or pleasure. In our lifestyle, we have been taught to be with peace, to be peaceful, to make that our focus, yet we get distracted by kama, no? We get distracted by pleasure. The soft bed that you have, the fresh ice cream in your fridge, and on and on and on. What did Hanumanji do? He touched Mainaka and continued. How we can continue to focus on peace and not be distracted by kama or pleasure is to have parameters. Focus on parameters. Every one of us needs downtime. And with screen fatigue, it's almost like we need more downtime. But what do we do for screen fatigue? Watch Netflix. I need to rest my eyes by watching more of a screen or reading more on WhatsApp. To have a parameter that honestly we need downtime and we should have downtime, but enough should be enough in terms of kama or pleasure. When watching a screen, when watching a show, one instead of binge watching. When eating ice cream, a single serving will do. Who needs 3 servings? Everyone's hands are up. Yes, we do need 3 servings. Then we'll be stuck on Mainaka. Yes, we will never be peaceful. And I'm only sharing some parameters, but you have to come up with this yourself, correct? We have parameters when it comes to good things. Only 20 minutes of satsang, only 10 minutes of exercise. There you shouldn't have parameters. There should be parameters towards kama or pleasure. Hanumanji exemplified this. He is us, the sadhaka, the personality. Again, I'm sharing what our lifestyle should be to have the vision of peace. The second challenge that Hanumanji encounters, that Sri Hanumana encounters, is surasa. Surasa. Surasa essentially is a expression of a snake, and she wants to eat Hanumanji, and she keeps growing bigger, and he keeps growing bigger, and finally he grows small, goes into her mouth, and continues. We all know this. We read this in Amar Chitrakatha. Yes, when we were 5 years old. What Surasa symbolizes in our personalities is lobha, or possession. Lobha technically in English means greed, but here I'm associating it with possession. When your coworker arrives at work, now many of you are back to work physically, and they show up in a new car, what do you feel like doing? You also want that car, but you don't want the same one. You want a better one, no? What's the point of having the same car as them? It becomes a competition. What countries do, it's an arms race, correct? Look at how many silos I have. Look at how many silos you have. That's Surasa growing, Sri Hanumana growing. We get distracted by possession. We become possessed by possession. And the way not to be distracted, we all have to have possessions, is to focus on quality. Quality. To not be distracted by pleasure, focus on parameters. To not be distracted by possession, focus on quality. There are endless examples of this. If we just reference the Bhagavad Gita, whose army is bigger? The Kauravas or the Pandavas? Share with me in the chat. How big is each army? The Kauravas, who represent quantity, they have 11 units. And the Pandavas, who represent quality, they have 7 units. Who wins this war? Quality does. Think about your friends. When you have a few good friends, do you try to live your life to become more popular in terms of quantity? You don't. Looking around at a lot of you, many of you have emigrated from Bharat to America. And so you had to live simply, probably in Bharat, definitely in America. When you were establishing yourself in America, did you ever waste anything? You never wasted pencil, you never wasted food. Anything that was in a bottle, you squeezed it till your hands hurt to get that product out, whether it's toothpaste or shampoo, etc. Yes, even with cars. We have become very consumption oriented, but those who are focusing on quality, they enjoy the possessions they have. They use them fully, so they're not comparing. They're not engaged in this competition. Focus on quality. Hanumanji becoming small shows that density, that quality, and he continues. Now the last challenge. I'm trying to encourage clarity. The vision is on peace. That is Devi Sita. The lifestyle we have to follow to have such a vision, this is Sri Hanumana journeying to Devi Sita. That is us. The third challenge is Simhika. Simhika. Simhika is this shadow that lives under the water, and any being's shadow that flies above her, she pulls those beings down and destroys them. And what does Hanumanji do? As soon as she starts to pull him, he pulls her and he destroys her. Again, we know all of that. If Mainaka is the symbol for kama, or desire, and Surasa is the symbol for lobha or greed, tell me, what is Simhika the symbol for? In our own personalities. You can tell me in Sanskrit, you can tell me in English. Share in the chat. Some have shared moha, possibly krodha, because we're used to being angry, yes. The most correct the most correct answer that has been shared is matsarya, which means jealousy. Matsarya, which means jealousy. Matsarya is a very pithy word. What it means is when someone's behind me, no problem. When someone's beside me, no problem. But when one is ahead of me, that becomes a problem. Matsarya means when one slips ahead of me. Jealousy. In our lifestyles, this is when we get distracted by position. Pleasure, possession, position. That you're more popular than me. You have more likes than me. It's always in reference to another, correct? I've often asked all of you, where is the grass the greenest? Please share with me, where is the grass the greenest? Now you're all going to write Canada. But the right answer is, where you water it. Is to focus on your own blessings or the grace and guidance in your life. Being more specific, whenever we feel jealous, whenever we're distracted by position, even in an environment of sattva like this camp, focus on serving. Why? Most of our distraction on position tends to be extrovert or material. It is something that you can measure, like how many friends someone has on social media. But when you serve, it is not external, it is internal. It's not material, it's immaterial. And if you reflect on what's most important in your life, it is immaterial. I often ask people that I teach who don't have faith in the original parent or Bhagwan, prove to me that your parents love you. What will you share in terms of that proof? My parents are actually in the camp right now. They're participants. They're feeling very nervous about how I'm going to speak and how you're going to receive that. I always remember what Swami Dhirananda shared in terms of myself and my father. He said to me, this is Acharya Vivek, and this is Acharya Vivek's bap. In other words, his boss. You can't prove matters like faith or love, correct? It's beyond material. It's not external. When we serve, what happens is we become more generous. We become more compassionate. We become active listeners. Then whatever was distracting us in terms of position, all of a sudden, we've forgotten about it. It doesn't distract us. So serve in whatever way is natural to you. I have one more thought to share, and then we'll begin our questions and answers. But we have to have an exit test, correct? This is our Balivara class. We have lots of dots, like we're tracing right now. Our older son, Vyasa, who's 4, he's learning how to color. He doesn't believe in lines. He colors wherever he wants to. Some of our understanding of Vedanta is like that too. So, Puja Swamiji is sharing the vision. Puja Guruji, the lifestyle. In terms of history, Devi Sita is the vision, Sri Hanumana's the lifestyle. As the lifestyle is trying to sync, to match with the vision, what happens? We potentially can be distracted by pleasure. What to do? Focus on parameters. We can be distracted by possession. What to do? Focus on quality. We can be distracted by position. What to do? Focus on serving. I always remember what Puja Guruji taught us in terms of tapa. He said the greatest tapa is to be able to focus. And these are all ways to encourage us not to be distracted, but rather to be focused on peace. The way that I have analyzed this journey, these are the A's, B's, C's, and finally D. The A's, that is articles. We get distracted by articles. How? That is a possession. We get distracted by B's. B's are beings. How? In terms of position. We get distracted by C's. How? That is pleasure. But if we're not distracted, we reach the D. The D is divinity. When one studies the alphabet, you don't just stop at A, correct? You have to keep on going, in this case to D, okay? There's no E and F and G, it's just D. Devi Sita, divinity, peace. I hope that some of the dots now have lines between them and that we have more clarity, so we have more confidence. With that, we will transition from this discourse to our dialogue. If you have any questions, please write that out in the chat. There are 140 cameras and more are coming. I will not be able to get to all of the questions, but I will read the questions which I feel are most relevant to our lifestyle and vision. So you can start writing them in the chat. I will start reading them. As this is happening, I want to share with all of the adults what our evolving adults and young adults have been up to. Yesterday, they had a discussion. This is for all of the adults to continue their reflections upon. This is me entertaining you until you actually ask me a question, okay? I've been teaching through Zoom this will be my 5th year, actually. I started in September of 2016. Their discussion was, what is the most self-destructive part of your lifestyle? In Sanskrit, what do you do that is tamas? And now that's very hard for people to share openly, correct? So I gave them another option. What are some selfish practices in your lifestyle? Which is along the lines of rajas. And they were much more open to sharing that. And generally the sentiments that were shared, what is destructive, what is selfish, is this sense of insecurity. When one is insecure, if that's the impetus or the purpose for which one wakes up and lives, everything is going to be weak then. Do you all know how we become insecure? Someone tell me how insecurity starts, and then finally we know insecurity is the end. How does insecurity start? It starts with being distracted. When I'm distracted, what do I do then? I compare. See, right now, as I'm speaking to all of you, I am focused on that green dot right now. I'm not looking at who's here, who's not here, because I will become insecure then. There's so many people. I don't know if they're enjoying or not. So I just look at that green dot. But when one is distracted, what happens? One starts to compare. Our comparison initially will be that I'm superior. But finally, as I continue to do that, I feel jealous. And the completion of jealousy, this always ends in insecurity. Ends in insecurity. So distraction, comparison, jealousy, insecurity. This is another reason why I focus today on focus, on how not to be distracted. A question that is coming from Memphis, I believe. Hari Om Vivekji, how does one learn to forgive oneself? I'll try to give 2 insights to each of these questions because more are coming. Number 1, if you remember your original parent, in this context, it would be Bhagwan Rama. Bhagwan minimizes our mistakes by 10. If I make 100 mistakes, Bhagwan will minimize that by 10, that Vivek only made 10 mistakes. And whatever I do that is right, Bhagwan amplifies that by 10. If I do 10 things right, Bhagwan will feel like I did 100 things right. So your original parent is ever forgiving you. What right do you have not to practice the same? So that's a higher perspective. Now a lower perspective. Every one of us makes mistakes. And there's a church near our home, and they have the most witty signs. This sign said, "We all make mistakes," and mistake was spelled wrong. It's so witty. Another sign said, this was around Earth Day, "Save the Earth. It's the only planet with chocolate." What a good reason to save the Earth. We all make mistakes. If you learn from that mistake, it is not a regret then. If you don't learn from the mistake, it is a regret. So learning from one's mistake, all of a sudden, that becomes a teaching experience. So really, is there even a need for forgiving oneself? You had to go through that to become who you are now. So learn from every experience, mistakes and otherwise. This is critical to letting go of regrets of the past and anxieties of the future. Keep learning. You will see that forgiveness naturally happens then. Next, from Albany. How can I catch myself when I am having a tamasic buddhi, thoughts, and rajasic thoughts? How to knit them in at the start. The more absolute insight is to train yourself in being observant. One who's observant with their external world. They're neat, they're tidy, they don't need a tile to remember where their keys are or where their wallet is. So they're observant in their external world. That will naturally then affect or help them to be observant in their internal world. So train yourself in being observant in a very high way. Many of our shastras or scriptures teach sakshi bhava, which means to be the observer. First with your stuff, then you start to do that with your own ego. Next is when these thoughts are coming, and I'm reminded of, and maybe you can all tell me, when Duryodhana, this is the beginning of chapter 1, when he's getting lost in fear, he's getting lost in insecurity, what happens then? Some of you are acting it out. That's right. Acharya Bhishma picks up his conch and blows it. In other words, do. Because if you don't do, you will get lost in your own thoughts. Here in Niagara Falls, we have some of the most dangerous whirlpools in the world. Obviously, there's so much water. When you're in a whirlpool, what to do? You just got to get out right away, because if you allow yourself, I'm going to just hang out here for a little while. You are never coming up. You're going straight down then. Our minds are the same way. So just do something. Wash the dishes, go for a walk, something like that. Obviously do that which is productive. And I had shared that earlier about focus on serving. If you do not check jealousy, it becomes so poisonous then. Next, from San Diego. Regarding lifestyle, Swami Srupananda talked about happiness and how we all want happiness. But isn't happiness just a state of mind? wouldn't it be better to focus on experiencing the truth? The truth is so serious. How do we find joy in the quest for truth? To correct your analysis, happiness is not a state of mind. Is not. The mind can be quiet or agitated. The mind goes through states. Happiness is not like that. Happiness is our nature. It is unchanging. When the mind becomes quiet, we come to believe that more, but when the mind is agitated, we reject that. So now your point about the journey being so serious, what Puja Guruji shared with us, for those who I'm meeting for the first time, I had the greatest fortune to live at Sandipani and study under Puja Guruji from 2005 to 2007. I got to live with him for more than 25 months, and I always sat in the second row. And I'll tell you why practically. Because if you sit in the first row and your legs are uncomfortable, you have to move your legs and then you distract the teacher. But if you sit in the second row, it's just as close, but you can move your legs more. Remember, I'm coming from Canada. I was born and raised and live here. We hardly sit on the ground. What Guruji shared with us is for us to enjoy the struggle. To enjoy the struggle. We're going to struggle. We're going to falter. If you don't enjoy it, this faltering will turn into failing. But if you enjoy it, we'll keep faltering, but we'll keep moving also. There are many Devis from the CM Washington Center who commit to running a half marathon every year. I run with them too, physically, or we run in our own cities. When I try to do this, I try to do this in less than 2 hours. Some of our Devis who are not trained in running so much, they do it in 4 hours, but my point is they do it, correct? They may not run, they may not jog, they may walk, but they do it. They keep moving forward. That's amazing. Good for them. So enjoy the struggle. That this is all required. I continue. I'm not sure where the next question is from. What type of daily routine do you recommend for a working person to attain a balance of secular needs and spirituality? My higher answer is no balance. Why? Really what you're trying to balance is unhappiness with happiness. Does that sound reasonable? Many parents, even in front of me, they'll tell their kids, be religious, but don't be too religious. And then they'll look at me. Look at him with his shaved head and white clothes. But what if they just change the words to, be happy, but don't be too happy? Now, if any parent said that, that would be totally ridiculous, correct? Don't be too happy. That's what we do with balance, isn't it? It is the spiritual, it is the science of the spirit. That is the only way to be peaceful. It is not through pleasure, possession, position. So what balance? Now, my more lower answer is simplify. Simplify your lifestyle to the maximum so you have the maximum bandwidth for the spiritual. Such small examples of, if you have a smaller home, you have to clean it less, correct? This home is less than 2,000 square feet. That's great. It's never clean, but still we don't have to clean it as much. Yes, that's just an example for you. Here's one more. Sleep early. If you sleep early, you will wake up early. Your lifestyle will become so simple naturally then. Yes? And to give you one more really high thought, because I love it. Puja Swami Vivekananda's Guru Bhai, his name is Swami Brahmananda. He shared 3/4 of our mind should be on God and 1/4 on the world. What's our ratio? The exact opposite. So if you want a specific ratio, there's your ratio. our next question. Again, I'm also not sure where you're from. Hariom, how to stay alert. That appears to be the root cause of all falls. You are certainly right. Being distracted is really the beginning of the ladder of fall, which also comes in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. From a higher perspective, the more clear you are about your Sadguru, that is your guide, your Shastra, that is the map, your Bhagwan, that is the parent, the more clear you are about that, the more you will focus on this, and naturally your personality will become more vigilant. Just think about the stories you may have heard, and this is history, not stories like Gandalf. This is history, like how Puja Gurudev lived. The most vigilant, and I physically never met him. Our family became associated with Chinmaya mission in 1997. So Puja Gurudev's Mahasamadhi had already manifested. I have heard so much from so many. One is from Acharya Shailaja, who was the guide in Orlando. And we've gone to her home many times, and excuse me, Gurudev has stayed there many times, that he would go to sleep at 12 a.m. He would. That doesn't mean you have to. He would. Everyone's writing this down. Gurudev did it. I'm going to do it too. And then at 3 a.m., his light would be on. And at 4 a.m., he would come out of his room dancing. What do we do at 4 a.m.? We fall out of bed and we have a coffee machine beside our bed. So most vigilant, because most clear about Sadguru, Shastra, Bhagwan. A more relative answer on how to stay alert is to simplify again. The less stuff you have to think about, the more you can think about the stuff you have. Yes? Simplify your material, simplify your social circle, even simplify the books you read. For so many of you, what is your background? This huge library. How many books of those have you read? That's why I'm keeping it real. There's a mess over there. There's a kid's vacuum over there. Next, I am going to, that's it. No more questions. Anyone else? There's one question that has been written to me privately, but I prefer if you write publicly so that everyone can read the question too. I'm simplifying this question. This is a question about adding clarity between lifestyle and vision. Okay? Here is a reference for all of you. In chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna shares with Prince Arjuna, you need, he's talking to Prince Arjuna, he's talking to us, you need some sannyasa in your life to have full yoga in your life, to have full sannyasa in your life. Everyone followed. Some sannyasa, full yoga, full sannyasa. Now, expressing this in a less technical way. The word sannyasa, we typically define as renunciation, but the etymology of this word, sam means full. Ni means down. As, which becomes asa, means throw. So sannyasa means to fully throw, fully down throw, or throw down fully. In other words, to focus on that which is important and not focus on that which is not important. So some sannyasa means simplify. Give less to that which is not important and give more to that which is important. That some sannyasa naturally evolves to full yoga, where the purpose of why anyone does anything is to become better and better and better. And that leads to full sannyasa which is to throw down fully what is the most useless and dangerous part of who we are. It is the ego. That's right. So this is how a lifestyle is needed for one to have vision. A lifestyle is needed for one to have vision. Next, how to overcome fear in a new situation. How to overcome fear in a new situation. We'll take this to a higher perspective first. What are the two fears that sociologists tend to highlight as they share their studies and they speak to us? What are the two fears that sociologists share we all have? Public speaking and death, and sometimes they say taxes, correct? Taxes are very fear-inducing. I disagree with sociologists. We all have, every being, humans, animals, plants, stones, we all have three fundamental fears. And most of you know what this is. The first, death. The second, unknown. That's what you're describing. And the third is sadness. Now we'll analyze this to be very logical. What is the opposite of death? What is the opposite of death? Life, give me a Sanskrit word for that. Sat. What is the opposite of unknown? It is known or chit. And what is the opposite of sadness? Joy or ananda. We only fear that which is different. You don't fear yourself, I hope. Because it's you. So the point being is there's nothing to fear. Your nature is chit. Your nature is knowledge or the known. So this whole idea of unknown is the opposite of what our nature is. Now coming to a more relative perspective. All that is unknown, try to make it known. Try to make it known. You all keep seeing the posters about the Devi retreat that CM Washington actually started in 2013, and now we're hosting it again in 2021. We're really working hard and smart for this to be a physical retreat. But every day, everything is changing, particularly in Florida, which is then expanding to every other state in America. That's why Canada's still closed. And my point in all of this is we're trying to work hard and smart to make the unknown known. Then it becomes less fearful, right? So keep trying to make the unknown known. Now I go to Washington, D.C. I'll take this question and one more, and then I'll finish. I'm sure the organizers would need some time too. Hariom Vivekji, a practical question. See, the implication is everything else that was asked earlier was not practical. So now we come to the practical question. See how casual we are with language, and I'm only teasing here. Like when someone says, in my honest opinion, then what happened before that? Everything you were saying was dishonest, and now you shifted to honesty. We are so connected to our digital devices, moment to moment. How do we even begin on this path of simplification of our lives via a digital detoxification? What's interesting about this question is this question is being written on a phone right now. Okay. A higher perspective first. Your phone, any device, is not the means to peace. Treat devices as being highly functional. Your dishwasher is highly functional, correct? Your car is highly functional. Treat a device the same way. And I have so much to share about this, but there's not enough time. If you Google Google Vivek, social media sutras. I've written 6 sutras on social media. And here's one of them. I'll just give you one. Many of us were around when the internet just became public. It went from intranet to internet. Remember those phone lines? You had to plug it into your desktop, and then you're on the internet, but there's nothing to do. Then when you traveled, let's say to Europe, you went to an internet cafe. At that internet cafe, it's a public place. Everyone can see your screen. So you do shady things. Some of you, yes, we still do. No, you don't. But the smaller the device, the less the transparency. So we can go to the wrong websites and say the wrong words. So one way to really detoxify is only use a computer. And I mean this very systematically. So much to share, but my point is that I only use a computer when it comes to social media. That way everyone around can see what I'm doing too. Like, I was so fascinated when the switch happened between WhatsApp and Signal. Do you all remember that? And in my mind, what were you sharing on WhatsApp that you're so concerned about? It's a good thing that WhatsApp is becoming more public. Right? If this is used for satsang, good, let people hack into it. They'll get enlightened too. Now, in terms of a lower perspective, focus on parameters. And a very good parameter, 1 hour from the time your eyes open, that is the morning time, do not look at a screen. And I'm encouraging all of you, try not using your phone as an alarm clock. Have one of those old school alarm clocks with the red lettering, even better, you know, the ones that are battery operated with the bells. Go old school. And then 1 hour before your eyes close at night, screens should all be closed. So if Vivek is going to sleep at 11, the last time I should look at a screen is 10. If we set up these parameters, we will be much more disciplined with social media. Okay, I'm going to there's 3 more questions. I think I'm going to have to pass on answering these questions out of respect for your time because it's going to take me a long time to answer these. So, my gratitude, again, to Puja Guruji and Puja Swamiji, to our organizers, to all of you. There are the most trained teachers in the CM Washington Center. It's always been like that. It always maybe will be like that. For me to be invited to connect the dots is a great honor for me, and I do not take it lightly. I am authentically and deeply grateful to our organizers and to all of you that we have almost half the amount of screens that would be listening to Puja Guruji or Puja Swamiji, and you never left. And your cameras are on, so we know what you're doing. In many circumstances, we've become passive learners where we're listening to something, but our mind is somewhere else. In the classes that I facilitate, it is a requirement that you have your camera on. And if your camera is not on, you can't be in that course, in that workshop. And we have a very high success rate. Almost 99% of the seekers have their cameras on. We don't know what's going to happen with the coronavirus. So we're going to continue to commune virtually. So let us feel like a community. And right now I feel that a lot. So my gratitude to all of you. Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness. And I've paused, and our organizers, if there's anything that needs to be shared, please do so.
Thank you, Vivekji, for the wonderful Q&A.
Thank you, Vivekji, for sharing your insights. We sincerely appreciate it. And I don't know if the main organizers have any additional insights. If not, we will see everyone back at 4 p.m. for family yoga And for the chicks and Setukaris, please come back at 1 p.m. for the amazing, amazing fireside chat activity. And those links are available within the Slack channel as well as the day 4 email. Hariom, everyone. Thank you so much.